Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy you tuned in today and welcome back to Wellness Wednesday. My name is Dr. Linzi and I am a naturopathic doctor right here in Iron River. I specialize in helping people restore their life and revitalize their health. And always little disclaimer, anything we talk about is for the purpose of general health support, not intended to treat or cure or anything like that. We're just talking about overall physiology, optimizing overall health. Always consult with your own primary care doc before making any health changes, right? So last week we talked about health span, right? Not just lifespan, which is essentially how long we live, but that health span, which is how long we can maintain our health and our function and our independence so that we can actually participate in our lives. And we covered how to give our bodies the best possible chance at functioning incredibly well as we age. And I shared so much all week on Facebook, which was really fun, with just different experiences, meeting Carl, the 84-year-old who's at our farmer's market, who is an amazing gardener and doing so much. You know, my dad, who's in his late 70s and still slalom skiing and cliff jumping into Lake Superior, all sorts of fun things. My mentors who Jake and I got to go visit and have an adult slumber party for our 12-year anniversary, wedding anniversary, and got to hang out with them and just seeing how they're still working and sharing their passion, even though they're technically, quote, retired. So just so many things. And so I think that would be important to check out that recording. You can always head over to YouTube and check out the replays. My YouTube is Dr.Linzi ND, and you can always check out those replays there if you missed them, because that's definitely a good one. So this week, or today, I want to start with a really simple question. I want to ask you guys, how do you feel between 2 and 4 p.m. in the afternoon? Are you still going strong, or are you feeling, exhausted, foggy, irritable, looking for that coffee, looking for that sweet treat, and maybe you're thinking, oh man, if I could just close my eyes for 20 minutes, I could make it through the rest of the day, right? Because on Facebook this week, I asked the question, so your 3 p.m. crash isn't necessarily a caffeine problem, but it could definitely be a clue to why your body keeps storing fat, and then asked everybody how they're feeling around 2 to 4 p.m. And some people are doing great. A lot of people were saying they're feeling tired, right? And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because so often we look at these symptoms individually, like I'm tired, so I need coffee. I'm craving sugar, so I need more willpower. Or I'm gaining weight, so I need to eat less. I'm waking up exhausted. Oh, I'm just getting older. I'm irritable. Maybe it's my hormones. I can't lose belly fat. I need to exercise harder, right? But what if some of those things aren't separate problems? What if they're actually a clue? And if instead of trying to constantly silence those symptoms or mask them with the caffeine, we started asking, what is my body trying to tell me? That's a question I ask all the time with my clients, because your body communicates with you all the time. And that afternoon crash can actually tell you something. And most people don't realize that that afternoon crash isn't just about energy. Now, the energy part is important, but it's actually part of a metabolic cycle that can make your fat loss harder. And especially as we get older, men and women both talk about that belly fat that they can't get rid of. And if you're crashing in the afternoon, this can be a sign for you to give you more information about what could be going on. So now I want to share kind of like a common day that I often hear. I hear this as the common day for most humans, men and women. Okay, they wake up tired. What comes first? Coffee, you guessed it. So wake up tired, coffee comes first. Then maybe you're not hungry, or maybe you're busy, or you're trying to lose weight. So you kind of skip breakfast, or maybe you have this tiny little thing that isn't protein based, and you just grab something quick, or you skip it all together. Then you're running around all morning, and then maybe your lunch is late, or maybe you skip that too because you're trying to, quote, be good or more disciplined, or you're trying to lose weight. So maybe you just skip lunch. Then what happens? 2 or 3 o'clock rolls around, and suddenly you are done. You hit a wall, your brain isn't working, your patience is gone, and somebody could potentially lose a hand if they try to get between you and that piece of chocolate. And then usually you'll say, man, I wish I just had more willpower. Oh, I have no willpower. But I don't immediately think of willpower in this scenario, right? I want to know what happened the hours leading up to this situation. What did you eat? When did you eat? Did you have protein? How much caffeine did you have? How did you sleep? What is your stress level? Because blood sugar doesn't only matter, you guys, if you're diabetic. Your body's ability to maintain stable blood glucose affects how you feel throughout the entire day. But oftentimes, a lot of people guessed that blood sugar was playing a role in that afternoon crash. But I want you to understand the next level, even beyond the blood sugar. So let me explain. So when your glucose, your blood sugar is dropping, your body has mechanisms designed to bring it back up. And two of the hormones involved in this are cortisol and insulin. Now remember, cortisol and insulin aren't bad. We need cortisol. We need insulin. We need glucose. These are normal, necessary things that are part of our human physiology. The problem is when we're constantly asking the system to compensate for us. So let me repeat that. The problem isn't necessarily the cortisol or the insulin or the blood glucose itself. It's when we're constantly asking the system to compensate for us. Now, what I mean by that, so imagine that scenario that I listed of the standard person, that morning scenario into the afternoon, it involves under eating, skipping meals, running primarily on caffeine and cortisol, sleeping poorly, and usually already under a decent amount of stress. So then when that blood sugar drops, the body doesn't say, oh, this person's trying to lose 15 pounds. I'll just let that blood sugar stay low because we don't want to be storing fat. No, your body is interested in keeping you alive. So it has a mechanism for getting that blood glucose back into circulation. So this is how the cycle goes. Pay attention, you guys. This is the cycle. So you under fuel or you go too long without eating, your blood sugar drops, right? Then your body responds by releasing stress hormones like cortisol to help bring the blood sugar back up. Then the craving hits, usually something quick, usually sugar, carbs, caffeine, right? So you eat something, now your blood sugar rises. And then the insulin gets called to move that glucose out of the bloodstream into your cells. And here's the part I really want people to understand. So insulin's job is to move that glucose out of the bloodstream into your cells, right? That's normal. We need that insulin there. But the problem is that people miss is if that insulin continues to stay elevated, you're doing this cycle all the time and stressing your body in this way, your body is much less likely, if not impossible, to release stored fat for fuel. So insulin is essentially telling the body, we have fuel coming in, store what we don't need right now. So it becomes much harder, if not impossible, to access and burn stored fat. So if you're riding this roller coaster all day long, the cycle becomes under fuel, crash, cortisol, crave, spike, insulin, store. Let me say that again. Under fuel, crash, cortisol, then you get the craving, then you eat the quick sugar, now you have a spike, now you have insulin, now you have storage of fat. And now that cycle continues. Then you crash again and you repeat. So that 3 p.m. crash isn't just telling me something about your energy, it is giving us a clue about why you're saying, man, I barely eat, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm exercising every day, and yet I keep holding on to this fat or I can't lose this belly. Because the fat loss requires your body to be able to access that stored fat for the energy. And if you're doing this cycle, it's literally impossible. So if that insulin is continually being called throughout the day because of this repeated spike and crash situation you have going on, you may be spending a whole lot less time accessing those fat stores, if at all. And that is why I care about that 3 p.m. crash. Yes, I want you to feel better and understand that the problem is you don't just need more caffeine, but I want you to look at that entire cycle, not just, oh my gosh, I'm tired at 3 p.m. I want you to look at, are you under fueling and then crashing and then having the stress response, which is the cortisol. Then you have the craving. Then you give in to the craving because your body's trying to keep you alive because your blood sugar is crashing. Then you have the spike in your blood sugar, then you have the insulin, then you go into storage mode, and you're repeating this all day, every day. And so you have this person going through that cycle that may be saying, I barely eat, I'm exercising, I'm trying so hard, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. And sometimes the answer is not to then eat less or exercise more. Sometimes eating less can actually make this whole cycle worse. Sometimes exercising more can actually make this whole cycle worse. Because if you're already under fueling and you're already stressed and you're already sleeping poorly and you're running on caffeine and you further restrict, you're going to have even more instability. And so I really want you to understand that the fat loss requires your body to actually be able to access that stored fat. And so when that insulin, like I said, is repeatedly elevated, you're not going to be able to have that fat breakdown taking place, and then you're just going to have a harder time. So we don't want to just be eating fewer calories, and and that can be why when people are eating less, they feel like their body is being stubborn and holding on, and it's just we're not looking at the whole picture. You got to think, like, if that pattern is happening alongside this chronic stress that you're not dealing with, or this poor sleep that you're not dealing with, or this overall inflammation, or you're developing insulin resistance, this is why, you guys, that weight loss is not just calories in, calories out, or exercise more, right? And this energy balance matters, but understanding this physiology matters too. The hormones play in, the insulin plays in, the stress plays in, the sleep, the timing of our meals, the protein, our muscle content, and most importantly, understanding these patterns that are taking place in our life. So let's go back to that 3 p.m. crash. So if you're exhausted every afternoon, I want you to stop looking at this as an inconvenience and just let me get my caffeine, and ask yourself some key questions. What did I eat this morning? Did I have enough protein? Did I eat lunch? Did I wait too long between meals? Am I running primarily on caffeine? Did I drink any water? What's my water status? Do I crave sugar when the crash hits? Hold on. But yes, so I want you to ask those questions, because that may be showing you the entire cycle then when you understand. And so I want you to understand that the crash is not the whole problem, it is the clue. So the clue that your blood sugar may not be staying stable, and the clue that your stress hormones may be compensating, right? And the clue that insulin may be getting called in over and over again, and the clue that you may be spending far more time storing fuel than releasing it. And so it's often a much different conversation than just I need more discipline or just eat less. Because I've worked with plenty of people who are trying really, really hard. Sometimes harder is not the answer. And sometimes we need to understand that pattern first. And so that is what I want you to do this week. I want you to pay attention to how you're feeling when you wake up, what you do when you get hungry, what happens after you eat, how do you feel between 2 and 4 p.m., and start asking some of these questions. How do you feel a few hours after you eat? Are you able to maintain that energy? If not, you may need some more protein. Also, when people tell me that they're not hungry in the morning, that is not good. That is a sign of not ideal metabolic health. You want to wake up from your fasting through the night and have a strong appetite. That's actually a very good sign of strong metabolic health. And so sometimes it's hard for those first couple weeks of making a change because you're not hungry in the morning, but you need to get over that because you have to change the cycle. We want to work with our circadian rhythm, not against it. So I'm going to be sharing this week a simple assessment that I put together, called Is Your Energy Affecting Your Ability to Lose Fat? Because I want to help you guys assess this, because remember, the first step is awareness. And so if you're sitting there right now thinking, okay, morning exhaustion, yep, coffee, oh, yep, got to have that before I can function. 3 p.m. crash, yep, sugar cravings, yes, stubborn belly weight, yep, that's me. And I don't want you to just randomly start thinking you need to try another diet. I want you to get curious about why this is happening. So keep an eye on my Facebook this week. I'll be posting more questions about this, and then I'll share the assessment. And I want to leave you guys with a question today. What if the symptoms that you've been fighting isn't the problem, but it's the clue that we need to listen to, right? And so I want you to think that if this conversation resonated with you and you're tired of chasing quick fixes, I really would love to hear from you. And this is why I created the Total Health Restoration. And so, you can email info@drlinzi.com if you'd like the assessment, or you want to know more about my Total Health Restoration System, where we address all of this, we work on all these things, we identify the patterns and work through them so that you have the accountability and the help and the support to actually change things, not just take the perfect supplement or take the the peptide or the trizepatide or the Ozempic or the GLP-1, you actually are able to identify these patterns so that you can change them, so that when you stop the tool or the supplement or the GLP-1, you've addressed the patterns and you're creating the conditions for health so that your body can thrive. So you can email info@drlinzi.com. You can also, the best ways to reach out to me on Facebook at Linzi Say Larson. So that's Linzi and then say SAIGH Larsen, You can find me on there. You can follow me. You can comment on the post. You can comment on today's telephone time post if you'd like the assessment so you can see, is this energy thing affecting your ability to lose that belly fat, to lose the fat, so that you can have some awareness and start making progress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly does. I have a question. You talk about patterns, and I watch YouTube a lot, try to educate myself. But the eating patterns, they suggest, the experts,
Yeah.
Eat at the same time each day, approximately. Eat whole foods, not processed food.
Absolutely.
Big meals before dinner, not at dinner, and no grazing in between meals.
Correct.
And then dinner by 6ish.
Yes. So that is the experts might have it right on that one. That is a very ideal explanation, because that what you just described is working with our circadian rhythm, with when our hormones are highest and lowest, and working with us so we can optimize our metabolism. So if you ideally have 3 meals a day, like remember that time, it was maybe a couple weeks ago, we talked about, fasting and how it can be overdone and you got to be careful, but that 4-4-12. So having, breakfast, waiting about 4 to 5 hours, having lunch, 4 to 5 hours, dinner, and then waiting 12 hours until breakfast again. You're technically only having 3 meals. You're not grazing, and you're being very intentional. Then the next step is your bigger meals are breakfast and lunch. Yeah. And your smallest meal is dinner, which is literally the exact opposite of what we do. And I had mentioned that sumo diet, where most people are doing what the sumo wrestlers do to prepare for their competition, which is, skip breakfast, maybe a small lunch, or they skip lunch too. And then their biggest meal is you just stuff your face at dinner right before bed. And that is exactly how this cycle that I talked about today, that is all taking place throughout the whole day. So then when you have that big meal right before bed, you store it all. It just goes right to fat. And it's literally why sumo wrestlers do it, so they can load on all the fat. That's the exact way. So if you can get yourself, now, are the first weeks hard and challenging of changing the routine? Yes, just like with anything. But then when you start working with your circadian rhythm and with your hormones, you start feeling so much better, and that's what you want to do. And so if you do have some healthy complex carbs, having those with breakfast or lunch, so you have the day to burn them off, and so they give you energy for the day. And so if you do that, you're going to be so much better off. So yes, absolutely, it's best to not graze. It's best to have those 3 solid meals, with the smallest meal being dinner, and having it earlier. If you can cut off by 6 p.m., which I know is so hard for a lot of people, but that's why if it's the smallest meal, you don't have to worry about it as much, and you just get it in by 6 p.m. Because you guys got to remember, when you go into sleep mode, that's when your body is going into parasympathetic, rest, digest, rejuvenate, repair, and work, so your liver can do all its work, so that you can help repair your tissues and your cells. And usually when you eat a meal, about 60+% of your metabolic energy has to go to digesting your food. So think about that. If you're eating, number one, your biggest meal of the day is dinner, and then you're eating it really late, and now you go to bed, where does all of your metabolic energy have to go? To digesting your food, not to repairing your tissues, repairing your cells, clearing out the stuff you don't need, like having all of that happen. You are not going into a fasted state while you sleep, which is what is ideal. So if you have that last meal by 6 p.m., then by the time you go to bed, your body has used most of the energy and handled the digestion. And why also having a little bit lower fat is better, because you're not having, the liver have to process all that. And then when you go to sleep, your liver and your cells and your body can do all that work it needs to do to help you be rested and repaired to wake up in a good state. So everything you said is spot on.
Yeah, well, you explained it better than they did on YouTube as to why.
Yeah,
I just knew.
Because sometimes when we understand why, we can hear those things and it's like, oh yeah, I should probably do that.
Yeah.
But then when you understand the mechanism of what's actually going on, it kind of motivates you to want to do it because you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to spike my cortisol. Oh yeah, I don't want that insulin going through and storing my fat. And when you can kind of get a visual of what's actually going on in your body, you're like, oh yeah, I got to not do that. I got to, not just like, oh yeah, I should eat by 6, but why? And so then when you know the why, you're like, yep, I got to get that done because I need to support my body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just do it because I said it to do it.
Right. Or the experts say, or somebody
That's right.
on the interwebs.
Who are your experts and why?
Right. Understanding that physiology does make a difference.
Yep.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about the total health restoration system that we do is like we get to work through all of this, with each client. Like it's not just about, yes, we're eating an anti-inflammatory way, and yes, we're tracking the healthy habits that create success. We get to learn your individual pattern of like, there's been multiple women in the group, which by the way, I am opening it up to males. We can have, I got to help the males too, but the pattern of they're like they're not getting their nutrients in at the beginning part of the day or even their hydration. And then they'll get this second wind in the evening, but they wish they got the second wind around 2 to 3, but that's when they're crashing. So when we switch the timing of things and we understand their individual pattern, we can make those changes and adjust it. And we do little experiments. Okay, now try switching this and try switching this. And then we'll check in next week and see what we notice. And so often they're like, oh my gosh, that simple switch made all the world of difference. So that person could have been doing all the right things, technically checking off the habits, eating the correct foods, taking the homeopathic supplement we use, taking the trizepatide, but still struggling. And it's because their pattern is off. And so we can adjust that pattern that works with their body and it changes everything.
Yeah, you're getting feedback and you're tweaking it.
Yes, to get the best.
Them.
And then you understand exactly. Yeah. And then you understand your body better so that when you're done in 90 days, you didn't just use a tool and now you like don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. You have a depth of understanding of your body, of the way that is going to serve you. Are you always going to be perfect? No. But then you can catch it easier when you've been off a little bit and you're like, oh, yep, I know what I got to do. I got to get back on track. Not because somebody told you to, but because you know how you feel in your own body.
Yep.
And that is
cool.
That is key, right?
Love it.
Yes. So you guys know how to reach out. You can call the office, but it's best to email. The office number is 906-829-0500. You can email info@drlinzi.com. That's info@drlinzi.com. And then you can find me on Facebook, which is the best way, Lindsay Say Larson. And I do have a professional page, but I don't go on that one as much. It's just much better to follow me personally. And then that will be great. Oh, and